What's up, everyone? Bryce Gelman here today, going to be discussing my biggest takeaways from the Knicks Summer League, which just wrapped up this past Saturday. Going to be getting into, where we go from here. The Knicks, of course, have a few roster spots to fill out, so we're going to discuss which of these players could make them, out of the rookies and the veterans minimum. I'm going to be discussing, my top picks for that. And one guy I was very impressed with this Summer League that you'll just have to stick around until the end to find out about. But let's get right into it. I'm not going to waste any time. It's the summer. I'm trying to get the hell off this, and I'm just kidding. I'd rather sit here and talk about the Knicks for the next 2 hours as long as possible, even though we're in the summer league. It's the dog days of sports. The Yankees, of course, are a disaster, but let's get into it. Number one, my biggest takeaway, and I'm not, trying to sound like a Debbie Downer and all this. I'm not trying to tell you that the sky is falling. I'm not Chicken Little here. This is my biggest takeaway, and it's my number one for a reason. It's the fact that none of these guys, not one of them, is ready to play meaningful minutes in the NBA right now. None of these guys, not one, would crack the majority, if not every single one, of all the true championship contenders in the NBA. Their rotations, not one of them. And I think that that's a testament to two things. I think it's a testament to the lack of talent that these guys have. And how that they are not ready for the spotlight in the NBA. Some of them are not even good enough to be in the G League. Some of them are good enough to stay the complete back of the bench to play in the G League. These are, they're not all terrible players. I think the majority of guys that people were looking forward to watching the most, showed at least some competency. I'll get to that a little bit later. But this is my number one. I think that none of these guys will fit into where the Knicks have a lot of depth, and they filled a lot of their holes this past year. They filled their biggest role in needing a volume scorer off the bench. They filled their biggest role, second biggest role in my opinion, which was a backup big, a backup stretch 4, stretch 5, and Gershon Yabusele. So they addressed everything they needed to do. So these players needed to show a few different things in order to potentially make the rotation. Of course, this is Mike Brown coaching the team now, and not Tom Thibodeau. He barely played anyone, but this is both a testament to the depth that the Knicks have right now, and I also think it's an indictment on what we saw from the three most looked at players, the three guys that people were looking forward to watching the most in the Knicks Summer League. And that's the three rookies from last year. It's Tyler Kolek, Hakeem Dadier, and it's Ariel Laporte. And I want to talk about those three right here and what I saw from them, because it kind of relates to my biggest takeaway here, that none of these guys are ready for the spotlight, Madison Square Garden, much less to crack a rotation on any other championship contender in the NBA. The number one guy out of the three of them that is ready right now to potentially, again, I don't think that any one of these guys is good enough to crack any rotation of championship contenders. I'm gonna die on that hill. The one guy that is the most pro-ready out of the three, the guy who I think could step up and do the best possible job in case of an injury, it's Ariel Laporte. It's a guy who averaged 2 blocks per game in the 3 games that he played for the Knicks in the summer. It's someone who showed the ability to, this is something we haven't seen since Isaiah Hartenstein. It's not been a long time, but someone who's very adept at screening and rolling. Something that we haven't seen from Karl-Anthony Towns at all. Mitchell Robinson, not the offensive threat that you'd like him to be. He's not great on the roll. Of course, he's great at catching lobs. Laporte is also good at that, but I think that there's more. I'm trying to find the correct word here. There's more. There's more method. There's a method to what he does. There's a direction for and I'm missing this word, and if it comes to my mind, I'll be sure to come back and correct this lapse of vocabulary. But there is a certain level of competency when you watch him set the screen, and then roll. I think that that's another positive. He's a pretty solid rebounder as well, alongside being a good paint presence. He's got the potential to become a meaningful rotation piece down the line for the Knicks if he could develop his offensive skills just a little bit more. So that's my top pro-ready guy out of the three. And then I want to get into my general takeaways from all three of them. Tyler Kolek yet again showed extreme inconsistency from three. Not good enough again. He shot 33% from the field throughout all the games that he played, including 5 for 24 in the two first showings alone. He played pretty well in his last two games. Showed a lot, a lot more offensively, but this is not good enough. This is not going to be good enough in order to crack the Knicks rotation. If he's not giving you enough offensively in his shot creation and his ability to shoot the three, he does not deserve to get any minutes. His defense is not good enough to justify him playing at all. If he's not providing anything offensively that has nothing to do with his ability to be a playmaker, his ability to facilitate. We know that that's there. But if the opposing defense does not respect his ability to shoot the ball, to get into the paint, to develop any sort of floater, he does not deserve to play. Because his abilities will be capped. Because the defenses will not respect his offensive game. It will be a lot harder for him to get into the paint and drive and kick. Tyler Kolek, he needs to show more consistency when it comes to shooting the three. That's number one for him. I think the other parts of his offensive game, the floater, scoring through contact, developing any sort of finishing ability amongst these tall trees that he's going to face at the pro level. If he develops that, then he will crack the rotation on this team. But Tyler Kolek, he's my age, 24 years old. I'm not saying that it's time to give up on him. What I am saying about Tyler Kolek is that he's on the older side. He's not like Bacom Dade, who I'm going to get into in a couple of seconds here. It's not like Muhammad Diawara, the 51st pick from this past year, the only draft pick, the entire draft for the Knicks. These guys are young. They've got a lot of room for growth at their young age. Tyler Kolek, 24 years old. Almost halfway to 25. He's short. He's undersized. Doesn't have a long wingspan. He's not bulked up. He's not great at setting charges. I don't know how much growth that he has in the defensive end. You can't teach athleticism. You can't teach size. There's a lot of things that come with your body and your athleticism and your IQ. There's some things you can improve. You can improve your shot selection. You can improve your release to be a better three-point shooter. You can improve your ability at getting into the paint and taking a charge. You can't teach athleticism. You can't teach a few other things that he does not possess. And I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that Tyler Kolek, we should give up on Tyler Kolek. I'm just saying, I'm stating the obvious, being objective here. He's 24 years old, and I don't know how much room for improvement there is. I'm going to hold out on that opinion, or really honing in on that, hammering it home until it's very evident that he's not going to be the player that the Knicks expected him to be. The 2023 Big East Player of the Year, the 2024 Big East Tournament Player of the Year, someone who they thought could slot in within 2 or 3 years behind Jalen Brunson and provide what Jalen Brunson and no one else on the team realistically provides. And that's facilitation that a true point guard in the NBA should bring. There's the one true point guard on the roster. Not Jordan Clarkson, not Deuce McBride, not Jalen Brunson. It's Tyler Kolek. He's got to figure it out from three. He's got to become more confident in his offensive game. He needs to become more consistent. And then if he shows those things, then you can look past his defensive ineptitude and his lack of athleticism and his lack of size. And you could play him like people want him to be played. Right now, he's not good enough. So that's two players here that people thought would have a chance to slot in there. And then number three, a guy who is still 19 years old. He turns 20. He gets out of his teenage years in 5 days here. That's Bacome Dottie. Someone who, again, is a long-term project. The Knicks took him in the first round last year with the 25th overall pick. Someone who's got size. Someone who has length. Someone who showed a lot of defensive promise. Someone who looks like he's got his shot release down. There's a little hesitation like there is with Tyler Cole. There has been some inconsistency from the three-point line. In the Summer League and what we saw even in the G League. Same with Tyler Kolek. Bacome Dottie, 25% from three. Only played in 2 of 5 games in the Summer League because he had a toe sprain. But in those 2 games, he only shoots 25% from the field. Not good enough. Simply not good enough. That's the one guy you look at who could grow the most. There's a lot of room for growth with Bacome Dottie. He possesses the intangibles that you need to succeed at the highest level in the NBA as a 3-and-D guy. What the Knicks need the most, something that I'm going to get into as one of my other takeaways. You'd like to think that, 3-4 years down the line, Bacome Dottie is a significant piece on the Knicks bench. He's got to develop a shot. He's got to be more aggressive on the offensive end. Not just garbage time like he did in the Summer League in that first game against the Pistons. I think that there's some level of confidence that he needs to start playing with, Tyler Kolek needs to start playing with, in order for these guys to be able to crack the Knicks rotation. So out of the three, Ariel Laporte, most pro-ready, the most ready to slot in, break glass in case of emergency player that could play some meaningful minutes on this Knicks team. There's an injury that happens. That's my first takeaway. Number two and three are somewhat not interchangeable. There's no, they're on the same level. Number one's the most important to me. Number two, that there were some good players in this Summer League. Some guys that actually showed a level of competency that maybe we weren't expecting going into the Midsummer Classic in the NBA, whatever the hell they call it. Number one out of these guys is Kevin McCullough, the Kansas senior or fifth year or whatever he was. He's another guy who's up there in age. The Knicks drafted him after he suffered a season-ending injury in his final year of college. The Knicks took him with one of their last picks in the draft. He showed an ability to score the ball. Probably better than any other guy in the Knicks Summer League team. 21.5 points per game, shot above 50% throughout the summer. And now, it's something I hit on earlier and something I'm going to discuss a little bit further in my next takeaway, but Kevin McCullough has shown some promise as a volume scorer. Now, the Knicks addressed that need by signing Jordan Clarkson, albeit for 1 year. But it's something that the Knicks don't lack anymore. Maybe there was a spot in the rotation for him to play last year if he showed this level of promise and he wasn't hurt for the majority of last year. He could have played big minutes. He could have been the volume scorer the Knicks so desperately needed last year off the bench. The Knicks have now in Jordan Clarkson. Another guy who in a couple of years might be good enough, might be better from threes, does not shoot the three well. He operates a lot within the arc, and there's a time and a place in this current NBA that to be efficient enough in order to justify actually doing it. You don't really see it from middle of the road players. The last guy I could think of who actively lived within the 3-point arc as a role player was Sean Livingston, a guy whose mid-range shot was so good and his size was so good as a guard that, it warranted how much he refrained from taking 3-point shots. Another guy is TJ McConnell, but that's a different story. As a playmaking guard, he's able to get into the paint a lot easier, and he's short, can't really create his own shot on the perimeter. So he uses that advantage of having the first step. You catch by drift here. Kevin McCullough, again, showed promise. I'm excited to see who he potentially develops into in the future. Do I think that the Knicks should use their last veterans minimum on him? No, I do not. He'll be a two-way guy, and let's see what he could bring the Westchester Knicks. I'll be certainly keeping an eye out on that this next G League season. Number 2, the Knicks with the 51st pick in this past draft. I mentioned him, Mohamed Diawara. Another French guy, a friend of Bacome Dadier. He's got length. He's got size. He's got a very good standing reach. I believe 9'2", 9 feet 2 inches. He showed some flashes. He did. Not from behind the arc like no one else did. Like everyone else did. The incompetence from behind the arc. But he showed the ability to be. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think that this guy could be a top rotation piece on the Knicks, but I'm also saying that there's a non-zero chance that can happen. I don't know if you saw his flashes of bringing the ball up, looking like a facilitator, as a guy over 6'7". Showed an inherent ability to be a facilitator, to be a playmaker. Had a few very nice passes in the summer. Averaged 7 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.3 steals. Showed a promise as a playmaker, as a slasher. He obviously has a lot of room for improvement. As a 20-year-old, he can grow into the player that I think not a lot of us expected him to be. He's a 51st overall pick. There's no guarantee that a second-round pick that late could be anyone in the league. But he possesses the intangibles, just like Bacome Dadier does. So it's another extreme positive that the Knicks may have drafted someone who could contribute at all in the NBA, hopefully for the Knicks. Like, that's what you're looking for at the back end of the second round. Which one of these guys could become a rotation piece at some point in their NBA careers? The Knicks may have found one here in Mohamed Diawara. Something else that I'm going to be looking forward to, in the future in this upcoming, Knicks season. I hope that I assume that he'll stay in the United States. They own his rights. I don't, if I'm missing any information on that, I do believe he's going to stay, but I'm not 100% sure on it. And last but not least, the guy who I'm probably the most impressed by, undrafted free agent, G League Ignite guy a few years back, is Dink Pate. Dink Pate, 6'8", a lot of size. In his final G League game, or in his final Summer League game, 10 points, 10 rebounds or 20 points, 10 rebounds, double effort. The final game against Washington, against the Wizards. Averaged 9.8 points, 6.4 rebounds. May have been the most naturally gifted athlete on the court throughout these games. And it's someone who I'd really like to see the Knicks bring in as a two-way player. Someone that I don't think that you could, in good conscience, let go and allow another team to sign. As you see a lot of in the NBA, guys don't crack rosters. Obviously playing for roster spots, they don't crack rosters, and the team doesn't, give them a two-way contract. Usually guys who end up being solid rotational pieces in the NBA, whether they're undrafted free agents or guys who are drafted extremely late in the second round, they aren't let go by teams. Like the front offices look at these guys and say, hey, they might be solid pieces down the line. We're going to try our best to hold on to him. If he wants to leave, so be it. We'll give him a two-way contract and hopefully he'll stay. And in many instances, that's usually what happens. So Dink Pate, funny name. That would be great if he becomes a meaningful rotation piece for the Knicks. That'll be an enjoyable name to say. But he's 19 years old. 19 years old, has shown athleticism, shown an inherent ability to create his own shot, which I think is much needed on this Knicks team. Jordan Clarkson only under contract for a year. If he plays well, he may earn himself a bigger contract the Knicks are able to afford. And then they need another volume shooter, shot creator off the bench. Maybe it's Dink Pate. Who knows? We'll see. But those are three guys that I was very intrigued by, and some guys that I'll be keeping an eye on in this upcoming Westchester Knicks season. Hopefully they end up staying on this Knicks roster, because I do think that there's a chance, I'd say over 50% chance, that one of these three guys, if they're all kept, could become a solid rotational piece for the Knicks down the line. Number three, and this is going off of my first point and also encompasses not only Summer League takeaways, but also what I'm looking for going forward and who I want the Knicks to fill out their last remaining veterans minimum roster spot on. And that's the idea that none of these guys, not one of these guys throughout the Summer League, besides Dink Pate, shooting 50% from three, not one of these, or 60% or whatever the hell it was really good. None of these guys besides him showed any potential as a knockdown sharpshooter from three. Not one of them. Not Kolek. Not Pakomdadie. Not Diawara. Not McCullough. You catch my drift. You catch my drift here. Not one of these guys showed any sort of competency and consistency in shooting the three. And you may ask, Bryce, why does this matter so much? As I said earlier, the Knicks addressed two of their biggest needs. A backup volume scorer, someone who could create their own shot off the bench. And when slotted alongside Jalen Brunson, could take some pressure off Jalen Brunson to be the one creator in the lineup, on the court. And that's Jordan Clarkson. They also addressed their need for a backup big stretch 4, stretch 5, and Gershon Yabusele, who was extremely efficient on the Sixers last year. Played multiple years overseas, ends up coming back, doing a really solid job. Dunked over LeBron in the gold medal game for France in the 2024 Olympics last year. Sixers see that. They give him a contract. He averages 10-plus points on 50% shooting from the field, 38% from three. The Sixers supposedly offered him a disrespectful offer. And he comes to the Knicks, signs for less than the taxpayer mid-level exception. And he could become a very solid piece on this Knicks team. He's one of the reasons why this Knicks team is completely overhauled in terms of its depth. He was the better acquisition out of him and Jordan Clarkson. He's under contract for 2 years. Clarkson under contract for 1 year. I digress. Two of the biggest Knicks needs filled. Now, what's number three? You can potentially say it's number two, number 4. I had 4 needs. You can go back, look at my ideal Knicks offseason, even know that free agency over. Knicks could make some potential trades. You could check that out on my YouTube. I believe it's the video that I did before this. But that need being a three-point shooter. The Knicks addressed their 2 out of their 4 most important needs. They did not acquire someone who can come off the bench and not just hit threes, not just shoot them at a high percent, but actually take them. Someone who's constantly running around the court, finds a way to get open off the ball. Someone who slips off screens extremely well and finds open shots and open spots on the court to get into, sneak into, to get open shots. They did not address that. Now, out of the available options, 2 of them have been floated. Knicks supposedly have interest in both these guys. One of those guys being Landry Shamet, an in-house signing. You know, he was a Knick this past year. Shot his best percentage from 3 since 2018-2019 at 39%, essentially 40%, 39.7% from 3. Of course, this is on his lowest volume and in his lowest minutes average per game in his career. But he showed promise to be a guy who could be a volume 3-point scorer, 3-point shooter. 40% is good. You want a guy 42, 43% that can take a bunch of shots per game. There is some promise in him being brought back as a 3-point shooter. I don't know who else on the market is looked at as a potentially valuable piece in terms of being a shooter. You saw Duncan Robinson, Luke Kennard get deals bigger than what the Knicks could offer them. Landry Shamet doesn't have a deal yet. He's still a free agent. I'd like to see the Knicks bring him back. The other name being Ben Simmons, who I think addresses your need of a backup facilitator that provides you enough on defense that you could justify playing them. Tyler Kolek is not that guy, even though he's a true playmaker, true facilitator. Ben Simmons could be that guy. I prefer Landry Shamet. I think that there should be a level of loyalty from this Knicks front office. Landry Shamet got screwed. He was playing extremely well down the stretch of the Knicks regular season. Playoff starts, and he barely plays. He barely plays. And only when Tom Thibodeau's hand gets forced and the Knicks are in a do-or-die Game 3 in the Eastern Conference Finals, that's when he is slotted in again as one of the top bench pieces on a Knicks team that really struggled in terms of their depth in the playoffs and throughout the regular season. Tom Thibodeau refused to play Landry Shamet in big spots. He averaged 15 minutes per game during the regular season. Playoffs, barely played. And finally given a chance, he gave the Knicks some of their biggest moments throughout the Eastern Conference Finals. He did. That Game 5 in which he came in, again played well alongside DeLon Wright. And again, injected a spark that the Knicks had not gotten from any one of their bench players, including Cam Payne, who played major minutes. Even playing the start of Game 2, start of the fourth quarter in Game 2 against the Pacers. Truly infuriating. And Landry Shamet came out and gave the Knicks some of their best moments throughout the playoffs. He's a fan favorite. Deserves to be brought back. I don't know who the hell else the Knicks are going to be targeting that can hit threes at a high clip, or at least an efficient clip, not necessarily a high clip. Someone could also play some good defense. He's a good team defender. That's Landry Shamet. There's a reason why after his shoulder injury he suffered last year, the Knicks still drafted him in the G League draft, held on to him, and waited for him to get healthy, and then inserted him back into the rotation the second he got healthy. then he finally was getting back into the swing of things. Then he was benched. And then still after getting benched throughout the playoffs, he comes in and provides the Knicks exactly what they were missing. A spark off the bench. Bring back Landry Shamet. Go after someone else who can hit threes. I definitely prefer Landry Shamet over Ben Simmons. Those are the two guys that have been floated. Those are my three main takeaways from what we saw in the summer. And again, the last one kind of encompassing the idea of the Summer League and also going forward in terms of the roster spot. But that'll do it for this video. And if you like these videos, if you like these more than the YouTube live streams that I'm doing, the YouTube, Twitter live streams, please drop a comment down below. Please, yeah, I mean, listen, I appreciate all the feedback, and you got some criticism for me, you disagree, then also drop a comment. I'd love to have this conversation. Comment section below. Stay tuned for a lot more content coming your way, particularly more Knicks stuff. You can always rely on that. Giants stuff now with training camp starting today on Tuesday, July 22nd. Everyone is reported. From what we've heard, there might be some holdouts. I don't know who. It seems like everyone else is under contract. I digress. Also going to be talking Jets and Mets as well. Yankees at the forefront of my mind, of the majority of the Yankees fans' minds as well. I mean, obviously, if you're into the team, you're into the team. Even if you're kind of a casual, you're observing from afar and watching Anthony Volpe continue his play as one of the worst hitters and fielders in MLB and one of the worst shortstops. But again, I digress. Keep an eye out for this coming content, and everyone enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks, guys. Peace.